Welcome to the Panic Button, everyone. I'm Nina. This video is 2 years old, but I wanted to cover it because there was a lot in it that I found absolutely hilarious, and I think you will too. So let's just go right into it.
Under new government plans, transgender pupils could be rejected from taking places at same-sex schools. The guidance would apply to both state and independent schools in England and could even let teachers refuse to call students by their preferred pronouns. Joining me in the studio is Naomi Cunningham, barrister at Outer Temple Chambers and co-founder of Sex Matters. And from Norwich is Felix Byrne, co-founder of Trans Activism UK. So maybe I'll start with...
Okay, people. So before we begin, I want to play a little game with you, and it's called Guess the Sex. So let's start off with the name. This person's name is Felix. When you look up gender-neutral names, one of the top names is Felix. And it says, Felix is an artsy indie, maybe gamer alt scene. Not super common among cisgender guys under 30, so when you hear it, there's a high chance it's a chosen name. Shows up a lot in queer spaces. Other names like Logan or Parker, Kai, those are names that are clockable. So if you hear that name, chances are it's a queer person or a trans person. Now we go into the look of this person. Lots of pink, kind of gamerish looking person. So when I looked up what the connection was between queer spaces and childlike aesthetic, this is what I got as a result. So online queer spaces have a big overlap with fandom culture, which is already steeped in cartoons, anime, toys, and nostalgia merchandise. You end up with adults decorating their room like Adventure Time exploded because it's the community norm. When these people say they're just living their true self, they're living out who they really are. Most of the time, they're just adhering to the group, the queer community. It really has nothing to do with who they are as people. And expressing themselves, it's more of, I want to be part of the group. Also, big thing here, we got the peach fuzz facial hair. Now, most men have more of a thick hair, like thick facial hair, majority of the time. Like this person is like half in trans man and half out. Not going full all the way because it's really not about being trans. It's about being different and accepted by the group, not adhering to society norms, but also not adhering to being a complete man. They want to like keep people guessing for some reason because it's fun for them. I'm not really sure. Also, if you have pronouns in your bio that say he, him, most of the time that is going to be a woman. Most men, I'd say damn near all of them nowadays, don't have pronouns in their profile. Strawberry shortcake, remember that? I think there was a cartoon, Strawberry Shortcake. Was that what it's called? Anyway, got the child kind of like hat. We got the pink going on. We have like the gamer chair and the pink gamer headphones. Very much a chronically online person. Not very adult-like. Doesn't seem like someone who is a responsible, logical thinking adult, but more a mentally unwell, kind of deranged person, if we're being honest. I mean, the eyes say it all.
With you, Felix, and ask you about this. So we're talking about same-sex schools, so all girls or all boys, and the possibility that trans children or pupils would not be able to attend. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'd like to begin just by saying, so my name is Felix, my pronouns are he, they. I just wanted to check before I begin if Naomi could confirm her pronouns for me. I say her, I could be...
There you go. Also the voice. The voice usually has a sound of prepubescent male. Usually trans men or they, thems who take testosterone, don't go all the way in on the transness, have a look of a prepubescent boy. Because they're not going full in on the trans. Even though they defend trans, they're really not all the way in on trans. That's why they have like a 1 foot in the door of trans and then 1 foot in the door of queer or woman, like childlike, very childlike. So, I mean, this person's clockability is pretty easy to tell what kind of person this is. The voice, the name, the look, everything.
Be wrong, so it'd be great if Naomi could tell me their pronouns.
No, I'm not going to tell you my pronouns.
Why would you like to know Naomi's pronouns? You might as well ask me mine, which you can ask with pleasure if you want to. Do you?
Yeah, I would like to actually. Yes, Vanessa, what are your pronouns?
Well, I'm she, her. I'm mother of 2 daughters and grandma to 4 grandchildren, and I'm she, her. But I wonder why you want my guest, Naomi, whom you don't know, to tell you her pronouns before we even start.
To show how simple it is. So the conversation, or one of the big conversations, is whether or not preferred pronouns should be allowed.
So if I'm in a restaurant and the waiter's taking my order, do I need to ask her what her pronouns are? Do I have to ask the person seating me what their pronouns are? Do I have to ask the cook what their pronouns are? Do I have to ask someone who works there where the bathroom is, but first I have to ask them where their pronouns are? It's just a waste of time. It's a waste of time. And also, don't trans people want to blend in? Wouldn't it be insulting to ask their pronouns? I would say so. So it's kind of, it's really contradictory to the whole trans community and their beliefs. I mean, see, this is the thing, is when queer and they, them, non-binary started calling themselves trans, that's when they started kind of taking a crap on the trans community, I'd have to say. At first, they co-opted the gay movement, tried to spout off our history in a different way that made it seem like they, the trans people, had started the whole thing and we should be thanking them. And then it was the co-opting of trans. So trans co-opted the gays, and then the queers and the non-binaries came in and then co-opted trans. So everyone's kind of like co-opting everyone, but the gays. The gays were just there being like, what the hell are you guys doing?
In schools, or something that should be respected for transgender students. That's as simple as the conversation is. My name is this, my pronouns are this, you ask someone what their pronouns are, that's it. No other issues. It doesn't cause any contention for anyone. That's honestly as complex and
it's exhausting for people.
All parties involved if they're not sure which.
It's exhausting for people. People don't want to waste their time doing that. They just want to go to the bathroom and go pee, or they just want to order their food, or they just want to get a ticket to the damn movie. They don't want to have these freaking drawn out conversations of what do you identify as? Like, I don't know you. Like, you are here to service me just so I can get my stuff and go. You know, this is your job. I shouldn't have to ask. Like, you have a name tag. I see your name tag. I don't care if you're man or woman. I just want my ticket. I want my food, man. Why do we have to make this such a thing about you? Aren't you supposed to be servicing me? Like, what the hell? And it becomes all about them. This whole pronoun thing it all has to do with making them feel validated. Strangers, people you don't know. And I get that people will say, well, you should treat everyone with respect. Yeah, but you're not treating people with respect if you're demanding stuff of them that they don't want to do because they find it pointless.
To use. It's one of those very simple things. It's always safer to just not assume and just not ask. Naomi is, of course, absolutely entitled to their opinion. I'm going to use they, them because I'm not sure of Naomi's pronouns. Absolutely entitled to that, and that's absolutely fine. Everyone should be entitled to their personal belief. But from my point of view, it's more of a simple grammatical issue.
Well, so you're going to use they, them because you don't know if she identifies as a man or a woman. But isn't that also insulting because you're identifying her as a group of people? I mean, as you could see, that woman with the woman name is a woman. She just doesn't want to give you her pronouns because pronouns are used when other people are talking about you. And it's like, being asked your pronouns is insulting to anyone who isn't in the queer cult. It's insulting to be asked that. So I understand why she didn't give the pronouns, but also it's insulting to misgender her when you don't know her pronouns. Is they, them the middle ground? And that's also insulting to call someone they, them, as if you can't tell that she's a woman, probably just a lesbian woman. So you're going to insult her by misgendering her, which is completely against what this crazy lady is fighting against. So I don't get it.
Rather than an ideological one. So to me, it makes sense in a school environment to make sure that all of your students feel happy and comfortable with the way that you're referring to them, whether that's within earshot or not. It seems very overcomplicated to me to make sure just that a simple thing of every one of your students feels safe and comfortable. If you take away part of their...
Safe. So if you misgender them, they are unsafe how? Are they going to kill themselves? If so, they're unsafe being in the classroom when they should be in an institution or with a good therapist who is not affirming. The whole safe thing, you lose everybody when you say it's unsafe if you misgender them. So we have to coddle these children and their pronouns for the moment because they feel unsafe. Like, is someone going to hurt them? Or do they feel unsafe because they feel that they might hurt themselves? And if they're going to hurt themselves, wouldn't it be their choice to hurt themselves? You're really just training children to be weak and vulnerable to everyone. So they're not safe because everyone is a danger because no one adheres to how they think and how they speak. So what they need is therapy, because when you say unsafe, are you talking about a school shooting or are you talking about misgendering? Because there's a wide range and gap in between those two things. And when we're using words to be specific to get a point across. So when you say unsafe, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And neither does anyone with a brain know what you're talking about. The only people who understand you are people who are in your cult. You know, like Jim Jones, T and Doe, Heaven's Gate. So you can't expect everyone to understand your extremist language. And you can't expect everyone to adhere to it. Because what safe means to majority of people isn't someone saying a word to them and being unsafe. Unsafe means unsafe from being physically harmed. Like, they're going to be physically harmed, so they're unsafe. But if you're saying that words make you unsafe, then your brain is unsafe to your physical body. That's a you problem, not an everyone else in the world problem. And the more you understand that, the better off you will be. But find a good therapist who does not affirm, who will push you and push back against you to get you stronger. See, when I was in school, we learned this little thing called sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It was a way to teach people and to children to be stronger, to not be so affected by everyone else, because you can't control everyone else. You can just control yourself, which is a big part of therapy as well. But therapy nowadays, this affirming therapy, is making people fragile. And the reason for that is because it makes them more money because it keeps them in therapy.
Identity and say that for some kind of ideological belief system that you cannot refer to them by a simple pronoun. What you're saying is, I don't see you as an individual human being, so I'm going to overlook anything that makes you comfortable. And that feels quite bullying and dangerous to me.
I just don't know, Naomi, about this idea of referring to people as individual human beings when they're in a school setting where in general what you're doing is addressing pupils collectively.
Just a
simple things, it's always safer.
Just a question here, everybody. So if dangerous and unsafe to these queer people is words, then what happens when a gun is in their face? They can't use unsafe and dangerous because that refers to being misgendered. So what word are you going to use instead? Deadly? Because they've used that word as well. So how do they reference actually being physically unsafe? What's the words they use? Do they use the same words? Because if they do, then it's like crying wolf. No one takes them seriously when they say unsafe and dangerous because they use it for retarded things like stubbing your toe or being misgendered. You know, like dumb things.
Naomi, about this idea of referring to people as individual human beings when they're in a school setting where in general what you're doing is addressing pupils collectively and saying, right, come on, children or pupils or year 6 or girls or boys or whatever you're saying.
Well, I can see that there will be certain circumstances, there will quite often be circumstances where a teacher has to refer to a pupil in the third person, a particular pupil in the third person, and will need a singular pronoun. Mm-hmm. Felix just said everyone is entitled to their own belief, and I very much agree with that. That's quite an important thing. If you require all the children in a school and all the teachers in a school to use the pronouns, the counterfactual, the non-reality based pronouns of a particular child who is a girl but says she's a boy, or who is a boy but says he's a girl, then those other children's and those teachers' rights are engaged as well. It's not just a matter of being kind to one individual and respecting that individual's rights. It's also a matter of respecting the rights of all the other children and adults in the school to their own belief, which Felix has just said that Felix respects, and to their freedom of expression. So
let me ask Felix how he feels about what Naomi has just said, which is non-factual. So Naomi has just said, so a girl who is a girl but says she's a boy, or a boy who is a boy but says he's a girl. Now, I wonder whether that's the way you see that, or whether you see that.
See why this is so confusing for people, because a lot of, especially the male to female, the girls who say that they're boys, why it's so confusing for most people is because they don't completely go in on the maleness. Like, if they were going to get arrested and going to juvenile prison, would they demand to go to the boys' juvenile hall? Would they be demanding to compete with the boys in sports? Would they be for being treated rough and tough like the boys are? Would they be asked to work overnights at a gas station? You know, if they were old enough to work, because, you know, boys and men can hold their own against other men. And this is why a lot of people don't take it seriously, because they don't take it seriously. It starts with the individual. And if the individual doesn't take it seriously, and everyone can see that, then no one's going to take them seriously. And so then they just become a clown to most people. And you'll see this a lot with new neo-trans men in particular. You'll see this a lot, where they only use their trans manness for benefits and then not use it when it's actually dangerous or unsafe for them. And I'm using dangerous and unsafe in the physically harming sense, not in the boo-hoo, word hurt my feelings sense.
Very differently, and you think people think that's a girl. This person was born biologically a girl, but is quite clearly in his or their own mind a boy, and therefore there's nothing non-factual about it. Maybe you don't agree with what Nem has just said.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is something where we will simply not agree to see eye to eye. I know the Sex Matters tweeted a bit earlier today with something along those lines to suggest that essentially what you're doing by using these pronouns is suggesting that one gender cannot be the other, whereas from my point of view, that's an irrelevant matter, because with students, it truly doesn't matter what their sex is. That's something that's only important within a sex-specific environment, which single-sex schools, I mean, personally, I don't see the need for single-sex schools. I think they're quite antiquated. But if you have them, you need to be accommodating for any student that you allow into that school. And I don't believe that gender is this immutable thing where if you are one sex, that's it. And I think that if you do believe that, 100% fine, you're entitled to that, but you cannot necessarily force that belief onto others. Naomi believes that my using the pronouns that people prefer, that makes them comfortable, that make them feel respected, is me forcing that ideology onto others by saying, well, this person uses their pronouns, therefore, by using them, you're...
These people are also dangerous to be around because they give strangers way too much respect, I guess you could say, people they don't know. And, you know, for anyone who's lived in the world over 30 years or more and hasn't lived in privilege, you know that the world is a dangerous place, and people who come off as very kind can actually be incredibly evil. And you don't know one from the other just by looking at them. And so you always have, especially if you're a woman, you always have to be incredibly on guard. And I'm talking like biologically female woman. You always have to be on guard because you never know. And because you're the weaker sex, you have to constantly be vigilant. It's almost like an inherent paranoia, but you become, you know, as you grow older, you become kind of used to it in a sense, to where it's like being a soldier in a way. No offense, But, you have to be that vigilant as a woman, especially when it comes to, being out at night, being around male strangers in particular, or even being out in the daytime. I have seen women being attacked, kidnapped, sexually assaulted during the day because there were men around, men that they didn't know. So for these people to give strangers so much, like, ask them what their pronoun is, and I'm going to accommodate them, and this and this and this. It's like normal people don't have time for that. Number one, normal people don't give a shit. They don't care what your pronouns are. They just want to get in, get out, go home, watch some TV, eat some popcorn, hang out with their friends or their kids or their husband or wife or their dog. Other people are just like, get out of my way so I can do what I need to do. They're not going out to socialize unless they're going to like a bar or something like that. So to give strangers so much is actually dangerous, especially for the female species. It really shows an amount of privilege that these people have lived. They've really lived through privilege. They have been kind of coddled and protected from the dangers of people in society that they don't know. So I think it's incredibly dangerous for them to be promoting this as if this is something that you should do for everyone you don't know. When it comes to being on a talk show, that's a different thing. But when you're out in the real world around strangers and men you don't know, giving that much to someone can be very tricky, and I would say it can be actually unsafe for people. Also, I wanted to talk about this person and who they are. I asked about Felix and what it said in their Instagram bio and in other bios that they have on social media. The description is listed as autistic, dyslexia, dyspraxia, clinical depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, functional neurological disorder, and hints at an array of other health issues. So in their description of who they are on social media, they list all their issues, not who they are, their issues. So it's all for attention. But also, you would think this person comes off as like, oh, they're kind, right? They're just trying to do the right thing. Nope, you're wrong. Because they have a GoFundMe here. Help me raise 100,000 pounds to annoy Graham Linehan. No, if you don't know who Graham Linehan is, I believe he was the creator of the show Father Ted. Let me just make sure here because I don't want to say anything stupid. Although, sometimes you're going to say dumb shit, and that's just a part of the human condition. So he's wow, they call him an anti-transgender activist. That's not true. He's not anti-trans. He's anti-crazy. He co-created the sitcom Father Ted. It was incredibly popular in the UK. He's an Irish comedy writer. I believe he got kicked out of his own show or something like that because he spoke out on behalf of women, not against trans people in general, against the things that they're doing to women, forcing men into their spaces and them having to shut up about it, and men in female sports. He talks about that. He was actually on Joe Rogan. It was a great interview that he did with Joe Rogan. I highly recommend watching it. So that's Graham. And Felix, the, so loving and kind, want to know your pronouns. Felix wants to annoy Graham Linehan and piss him off. So she put a GoFundMe together to be cruel to a man who is defending women and their rights, which shows you that, and of course I knew just looking at this person before I even knew anything about the GoFundMe that this person was not what they were cracked up to be, what they said they were, because most of the time if people are virtue signaling very hard, or if their whole identity is about being kind and accepting, and they're pushing for kindness and acceptance, but they're also kind of pushing to tell you what to do, most of the time activists, trans activists, queer activists, are going to be just absolutely atrocious people, like actually cruel, nasty individuals. But they put on the facade of being kind in order to get away with doing the nasty stuff they get away with doing. A lot of people do this in Hollywood too. I mean, we've seen through the decades that what they say, you don't want to meet your idols. And that's actually true, because they might come across as very kind and sweet on Jimmy Fallon, but get them in person and they're completely atrocious individuals, just crap people.
agreeing with them. I think that's overcomplicating things. I think that it is respectful and decent to speak to people how they wish to be spoken to. It does not mean that you are somehow violating your own personal beliefs.
Respectful and decent? Respectful and decent. No, I'm not for treating people like crap. Treat people the way you want to be treated and such. But I'm getting really sick of these people who act like they're kind, actually being nasty individuals. And most of these people in the queer community are. They will try to make you believe that they are kind and accepting, but they are actually not. And now I'm not someone to say, treat everyone suspiciously, because you don't know who they are. But I kind of am at the same time, because you have to be, because you really don't know people. And women. I know you watch true crime. I watch true crime. We know that the women who get murdered, it's usually by someone they know or someone they kind of know, but they trust. They give them an inch, I don't know you, sir, but, you seem nice and kind, and I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and then they end up murdered. So, ladies, in particular, don't let these people get one over on you. It's always good to have a little bit of hesitation. You could give people the benefit of the doubt, but always have that hint of hesitation. Because when it comes down to it, you really don't know who someone is. And you have to protect yourself. Not in the pronoun sense, but in the physical sense. It really does show that these people who pretend to be kind are actually not so kind. Like and subscribe, everybody. Join our memberships to keep this channel going. Comment below if you have any thoughts on this. And I'll see you in the next one. Crawling